Amber Heard's dumbass interview. I don't know why she did this, but she took the big L and then decided to leave and go and, well, do one interview. And presumably she thought it would be a softball, nice, easy, friendly media who care about women's opinions, that they are always the victims. And then she got some of that. But even with that, she came off as a lying, deceiving piece of S. And it was even worse than you might expect. So we'll start off just with a plug on the website here, being the Analysing What is a Woman from Matt Walsh there that you and Harry did together, which I think we have to keep in mind, women's rights and their place in all this as well.
Well, I'd like to know what Amber Heard thinks a woman is at this point, to be honest. That'd be another good interview.
That'll be a good question, actually, just in the middle of it. So you just lost your case. How about we get you with some more S? If you go to the next one here, you can see the original piece in which she was, libeling Johnny Depp here.
Officially,
and they have an editor's note now on this article that says, a jury found Amber Heard liable on 3 counts for the following statements, which Depp claimed were false or defamatory. The first one being, I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. This has to change. It's just not true. And the third one being the most interesting there as well, saying, I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse by asking for the evidence. And then when it's not produced, saying that the woman might have been lying.
Yeah. So she's a lying abuser, as the Washington, as the Washington Post had to admit.
And for anyone who's been living under a rock for some reason, you might not know, Depp abused me, sued for libel, and lost. That's her story. So she decides to go for the accepting of the one weakest possible interview she could possibly get, presumably to try and take her shattered reputation and get something out of it. You know, her and the 6 Amber Heard stans are, fellow abusers, are not enough to rebuild her career, presumably. So she went on NBC here, and, it was weird. And we'll start off with just a viral clip.
Before we start off, though, I mean, I have seen in my long life more than enough women who realize that the gig is up and they have to put on the sad face to try and get sympathy. And that is the expression it is.
Yes.
She looks very much like she is desperately trying to claw something back from this colossal L.
I mean, what options do you have left if you were her?
Admit defeat. Admit you were wrong. Admit you were lying. Admit you were abusing them. You know, you actually have a sort of moment of redemption there and say, I was wrong. I did the wrong thing.
I mean, for legal reasons, you couldn't say that all my testimony was bull, but you could say that, okay, I know I've done some wrong and I need to atone for that. Or,
I need
loose,
to change.
Broad language that gives off the appearance of you learnt a thing.
Yeah.
We'll start off with one of the clips that went viral out of all this, which was weird, to say the least, but let's play it.
In the closing arguments, the Depp lawyer called your testimony the performance of a lifetime and said you were acting. What do you say to that?
Says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers.
I saw that. I don't know, 4 other million people saw that. I presumably thought it was bad editing or something to misrepresent. She really comes off as that crazy in this interview.
But the little nod afterwards, yep, I said it. That's what I mean. You're gonna have to stand by that if you want to stand by women. It's like, because that's what that means. You know, like you have to accept that. And it's like, but I mean, okay, Amber, right? Edward Scissorhands was a movie, right? No one thinks it was real. No one thinks he has scissors for fingers or whatever it was. Why would you say that?
She's trying to argue that he's bad at acting, which doesn't work.
But even then, it's not sort of. Says the lawyer for the man who persuaded the world he had scissors for hands, or whatever shit.
I mean, it's incomprehensible on its own, isn't it?
That's not an allegation. That's not a response to you were acting. Well, yeah, he's an actor. Yeah, okay, but maybe that's how he knows you were acting. You know,
he's a rather good actor, actually. Unlike you, so he would know.
Exactly. But that's what an embarrassing foot in mouth moment.
Yeah. So here's a link I found just with the much of the interview I could, and we're going to go through some of the clips because, to start off, they decided that to go with.
So stupid.
We'll start off with the tough questions. Presumably NBC were coming out with being like, we're going to do the right thing and try and nail her down and be like, look, just say sorry for Christ's sake. So they started off with a very tough question, like, do you stand by your testimony? As if she was going to say no. So let's play that.
It's been about more than a week since the verdict. As you sit here with me now, has it sunk in?
How could it? Surreal and difficult In part, yes. This has been a long time coming.
Do you stand by your testimony and your accusations against Johnny Depp about abuse?
Of course.
I mean, I don't know what they were expecting, frankly, just to be a bit on the nose there, which is just like, do you stand by what you said? And if she was going to go, nah, it was all bollocks.
But
Like,
look how inauthentic she is.
yes.
So
I mean,
it's like, come on, you look, you look like a child.
I try not to read the body language too much, but in her
Oh, no,
case,
I think it's totally
very
fair.
evident.
Yeah.
So
Totally fair. Like she thinks she's going to be able to ride this out.
yeah, this was going to be a nice interview where she could rebuild. Like, don't you know, I'm actually a victim of the court system.
Yeah.
And she goes on to argue many of the reasons why she has her excuses for losing and why she is a victim again. This time of the court system, because not of domestic abuse. That one's been settled.
Yeah.
And we'll play.
Vast majority of this trial was played out on social media. I think that this trial is an example of that gone haywire, gone amok. And the jury is not immune to that.
You think the jury saw it?
How could they not? I think even the most well-intentioned juror, it would have been impossible to avoid this.
He
And it
says he
doesn't-
never hit you.
He can't-
Never. Is
yeah.
that a lie?
Yes, it is.
What about the witnesses who said they have seen you instigate physical violence?
I've seen firsthand how people will file rank and support the person they depend on.
Did they all come in and lie in court?
I am not here to call any of his witnesses any names. There was another trial dealt with the same substantive issues that had even more evidence in. In fact, my evidence was largely kept out. Really important pieces of evidence kept out. Done differently, handled differently by a judge instead of a jury.
Some evidence is admissible in a UK court that is not admissible in a US court. Do you think that maybe he just had better lawyers?
I will say his lawyers did certainly a better job of distracting the jury from the real issues.
That is amazing.
So there's just a small compilation of the excuses as to why she lost.
I'm not going to say they're all lying, but they were all lying.
No, yeah, so everyone else was lying. Everyone on the planet, presumably, except for me. She then says that social media is to blame for why she lost, not because of the evidence, but because people misrepresented her with the audio of her speaking, and also that the UK court system is more corrupt than the American one, and she won in the UK courts, damn it. So
But the UK courts, there was evidence from Johnny Depp's side that they didn't have.
they also could not put it there. But then she argues that in the UK court she was able to win. I mean, the amount of things we've covered in the UK court system, I'm not going to be frank, but I feel like our system is probably worse in this regards for finding the truth. And the truth was evident to anyone with ears.
But I mean, why wouldn't her lawyers have been able to submit her evidence?
They argued that there's some things you can't admit in different courts. I don't know the procedures there, but the evidence, which is all publicly available,
Didn't get leaked to the internet or anything.
no.
Right, okay,
but even if she
sure.
couldn't admit, if she couldn't give something over to the American court system, just publish it, you idiot.
Yeah.
And you don't because bollocks. Like,
Yeah.
because it's bollocks.
It's such an obvious cavalcade of lies,
And then the last excuse being that, well, Johnny Depp's lawyers were just better.
which is true.
Okay, it's the one true thing you've said.
hang on, right? I don't actually undersell Amber Heard's lawyers here. They were given a really difficult case.
Yeah.
And especially when she called out Kate Moss on the stand, it was just like, oh, you could see the lawyers just like, oh.
I mean, they were trying to polish a turd with an enormous amount of glitter.
Yeah.
And it just, they ran out of glitter, frankly.
Oh, no, you've opened the door for Kate Moss to come out and BTF us now as well. Jesus.
Yeah, there's also the other defense. So, if you're wondering, in case she learnt a thing, she continued. I remember you spoke about her Instagram post in which she said, "I thought this was America,"
Yeah.
and then she decided to continue the Randy Marsh brigade by arguing that I thought this was America. This is the price for speaking the truth in a free country. Let's play.
What people don't understand is it's actually so much bigger than that. This is not only about our First Amendment right to speak.
But here's the thing about the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects free speech. It doesn't protect lies that amount to defamation. And that was the issue in the case.
Yes, exactly. You can't go the free speech does not protect you if you go into a crowded theater and you scream fire. We get the concept of free speech from the Greeks. My understanding of what that means is not just the freedom to speak. It's a freedom to speak truth to power.
It's the freedom to lie about him.
But truth is the word.
Yes.
And that was the issue.
And that's all I spoke. And I spoke it to power, and I paid the price.
No one is buying that.
I love that answer so much
Yeah.
because you can see it's such a moment of, oh my God, people in Hollywood are airheads. Like, you see her bringing out just statements that she's heard someone else say about free speech.
Yeah.
And be like, well, if I just pitch them together, then I've got a sentence that's a defense.
Does a woman not have a right to falsely accuse a man of rape?
Yeah, that is obviously one aspect, but just when she brings up,
Crime, Amber.
you know, my understanding from the Greeks, it's like,
Yeah.
what? Like, as if anyone believes you've ever sat around and thought about free speech originating from the Greek republics or something like that.
Socrates would have been in favor of my lies.
Then she just brings out, what about fire in a crowded theatre? It's just not true either.
Yeah, that's not true either.
This bores the crap out of me. I mean, every single American celebrity brings this up in some conversation. They have no idea what they're talking about. But I love, what is it, Christopher Hitchens is the best one. Where he just goes to his crowded theatres where he used to give speeches and scream fire to make the point. It's not illegal.
Yeah. No, it's not.
It's just bollocks. Like, people just made this up because of that Supreme Court justice giving an example of a thing that he thought should be unconstitutional. But then, well, in his example, it was nonsense anyway because it was about the draft.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, well, that ends up getting
But
overturned
for
as
some
well.
reason, this has been adopted into popular culture, saying, well, you can't scream fire at that crowded theatre. It's like, you can.
Can. Go for it. No one dies, no one cares. And that's the point, again, that she just hasn't thought through her own argument. She's just bringing up things to try and sound smart.
But Plato.
Yes, don't you know? So I paid the price for speaking truth to power.
But that is kind of what she's appealing to, actually, is the kind of platonic form of the oppressed woman by the patriarchal.
Oh, come off
thing.
it. Like, she was thinking of that.
Of course she
stumbled
wasn't.
into that.
Of course she wasn't thinking of that. But that is what she's trying to appeal to with this.
No, she's been thinking about the platonic forms of oppressed women.
I'm not saying that she knows any of this, but that is what she's appealing to, and it is genuinely funny.
Appealing to it.
She's doing it when she says, "Oh, speaking truth to power," and the male
Yeah, I mean,
patriarchy
she
was
is a
holding me down.
moron who's walked
Yeah.
into an argument but doesn't know
That's
the
just not
argument.
true. You know?
But then just
Something
the
Plato said was wrong.
truth to power part, though. I mean, who's got the power? It was her.
She was,
Evidently, she was the one who ruined Depp's
yeah,
reputation.
She made the allegations. She got in deplatformed from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Who can do that?
Yeah.
mean-
How could I get Johnny Depp deplatformed from Pirates of the Caribbean?
Swanning around for years afterwards like she did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
got
she'd
away
already
with
got
it.
millions from him.
Got away with it in the UK court system, even though the evidence is overwhelming. Apparently, the judge had been eating too many crayons, and then continues to swan about as if she's done nothing wrong. I mean, it's unbelievable. She's like, well, don't you know I don't have power? It's the privilege of these women.
It's shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, but also just if you can't shout fire in a crowded theatre, but should you be able to libel? Anyway, let's go to the next one, which we have her insisting that the op-ed she wrote wasn't about Johnny Depp now.
In the draft that it was, though. In the initial draft, it literally named him, and they took it out.
Yeah, and even though that evidence is public, she now publicly insists that
God, Amber!
it was never about him. Presumably it was about Joe Biden or someone.
Someone else rammed a glass bottle in your foof then, did they?
Yeah, Trump, when he was grabbing me by the... Let's play.
I took for granted what I assumed was my right to speak.
Do you feel like you could be sued again by him for defamation?
I'm scared
Please, God, let it happen.
that no matter what I do, no matter what I say or how I say it, every step that I take will present another opportunity for this sort of silencing, which is what I guess a defamation lawsuit is meant to do. It's meant to
Stop you lying.
take your voice.
Yeah.
It was important for me not to make it about him or to do anything like defame him. I had lawyers, teams of lawyers, review all the drafts of this.
When you wrote this op-ed, it was the height of Me Too. Legions of powerful men being canceled, losing their jobs.
You thought you'd jump on that train.
Did you want that to happen to Johnny Depp?
Of course not. Of course not. It wasn't about him.
That is just...
I mean, it staggers me how she continues to just publicly lie still.
I'm
As if
wor-
nothing has happened.
I'm worried that he's going to sue me again for defamation. Is it because you're still lying about him assaulting you, Amber?
Yeah.
And you go on, like, the news, and you're like, yeah, so Johnny Depp did beat me and rape me, and all of the people who supported him and said they'd never seen it, they were all lying too. So everyone is lying, and this is exactly the same set of defamatory lies that I told that got me sued in the first place, that were proven to be lies that I'm going to tell again, and yes, I am worried that I'm going to get in trouble for this again. So yeah, big brain time, Amber.
I mean, even Akilah Hughes wasn't this brazen.
Yeah, even Akilah.
I'm just going to continue to, provably break the law in this regard.
Once the judgment comes down, she at least shuts her mouth,
Yeah, did Johnny Depp beat you? Yes, he did. Okay, we'll go to court. No, he didn't. Okay, well, yes, he did again. We'll go back to court then.
I really hope he sues her again. I mean,
this interview would be the funniest thing.
She'd deserve it.
Was she going to argue as well? It was like, there's more evidence somewhere up by Fufu, presumably.
Put it out. I want to see it.
Yeah, don't you know defamation law is meant to stop you lying? Yeah. How horrible is that? That's kind of the point. Just the whole thing. But also, the op-ed was not about Johnny Depp. As you say, even though publicly, First Draft named him, her hordes of lawyers overlooked the damn thing. Bollocks that up, clearly.
This should be fine, Amber. Trust us.
Don't worry. When we get to court, we'll win for you.
We get paid either way, so...
Good lawyers. Good lawyers who did the good thing, which is bankrupt a horrible woman, frankly. And if we go to the next one, there's also just... She continues to lie in this goddamn interview over things that even the interviewer, who's obviously somewhat sympathetic and not asking the hardball questions, is just calling her out on and just be like, what? Like, I've got the transcript, you dumbo. Let's play.
You were the abuser, that you instigated physical violence. Did you?
I never had to instigate it. I responded to it.
You say you were responding, but there is evidence. There are tapes in which you acknowledge hitting. There are tapes in which you say, I started the fight.
I know much has been made of these audio tapes. They were first leaked online after being edited. What you would hear in those clips are not evidence of what was happening. It was evidence of a negotiation of how to talk about that with your abuser.
But I am looking at a transcript that says, he says, you start physical fights, and you say, I did start a physical fight. I can't promise you I won't get physical again. I mean, this is in black and white. I understand context. But you're testifying and you're telling me today, I never started a physical fight, and here you are on tape saying you did.
As I testified on the stand about this, is that when your life is at risk, not only will you take the blame for things that you shouldn't take the blame for, but when you're in an abusive dynamic, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, you don't have the resources that, say, you or I do with the luxury of saying, hey, this is black and white, because it's anything but when you're living in it.
But then there are other times, there's another tape where you're taunting him and saying, oh, tell the world, Johnny Depp, I, a man, am a victim of domestic violence.
20-second clips or the transcripts of them are not representative of even the 2 hours or the 3 hours that those clips are excerpt from.
Could your side have just put the whole 3 hours in then?
I'm not a lawyer.
Oh God, Amber.
She goes on to peddle about how she doesn't know what she's doing, and it's like, oh, obviously. But I love that. It was just like, well, the transcripts say that you're obviously an awful person who did this. And
you were saying to him that you hit him, and no one would believe that you hit him. So go ahead and tell everyone, because you look like an idiot.
But what about the context? It's like, well, okay, why don't you just give us the full context? Well, I can't, because I don't know what I'm doing.
That'd be devastating to my case, Your Honor.
I mean, it's embarrassing. I mean, my own words are not representative of my word.
She's so obviously the abuser.
And this also continues. I mean, it's obvious in just that sequence there. But later on, again, with the donations thing, she just continues to lie to the interviewer, who's just looking at her like, are you serious? Like, we're trying to help you clean up your act here, and even you're bungling this. Let's play.
You had promised to donate the $7 million of your divorce settlement to charity.
Pledged.
It was revealed at trial that you haven't done so yet. However, they played a tape where you stayed on the air that you have donated it. Do you think that raised questions as to your credibility with the jury?
I made a pledge, and that pledge is made over time by its nature. And
when you say I donated, you know that everybody thinks that you've donated it, not that you've pledged it. So for the jurors sitting there, do you think they felt like that was you getting caught in a lie?
I don't know, because so much of I feel like so much of the trial was meant to cast aspersions on who I am as a human, my credibility, to call me a liar in every way you can. And
That
more.
was the trial. It was a credibility contest.
That was a lie.
And
That was it.
This is another one of the examples where if you pull back and you think about it, I shouldn't have to have donated it in an effort to be believed. I shouldn't have had to earmark the entirety of that in order to have.
You shouldn't have, but once you said you did.
Right, which is where it was intended to go.
Heard says she still plans to honor that pledge.
Is a woman not entitled to lie about donating money to charity without having her character smeared when it turns out she didn't?
The whole case was about whether or not Amber Heard is a liar, and they showed in court that you were a liar. And it was like, well, shouldn't I be able to get away with lies? And I was like, no, that's what the court case is about, love.
What is wrong with her?
And then at the end, I mean, presumably they don't show us the bit of footage because it's, cut up a bit. But
Yeah.
they say that she then said she was going to continue to pay that money. With what money?
Yeah, where do you get the money from, Amber? We went through her finances the other day. You haven't got any money.
Was she pledged? Like, I think it was like 7 million or something.
Yeah.
That she donated but didn't.
Yeah.
And it was like, how dare Johnny Depp's lawyers show publicly that I am a public liar about a case in which the sole question is Amber Heard a liar?
And that I'm terrible with money.
Yeah. And then we'll end this off. So the next clip here is just that scissors hands bit, which was pretty weird. So I thought I'd play the full context just so you can see it. Yeah, it definitely is as weird as it looks. Let's play.
In the closing arguments, the Depp lawyer called your testimony the performance of a lifetime and said you were acting. What do you say to that?
Says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers. I'm the performer. I had listened to weeks of testimony insinuating that, or saying quite directly that, I'm a terrible actress. So I'm a bit confused how I could be both.
What, acting and a terrible actress?
Yeah, that's the argument. How can I be putting on a performance if I'm bad at performing? It's like,
That's how we know you're putting on a performance.
that's part of the. That's
Yeah.
how we know if you're a bad performer.
Yeah.
Because we can tell you're performing. You freaking moron.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So there is one moment finally at the end in which there is some moment of responsibility. And it's because the interviewer, who has clearly just had enough with her S, even for herself, just openly says, take some goddamn responsibility in much nicer way. Let's play.
Oh, good
I
luck.
asked his lawyers, why do you think you won? And the answer I got was, because she never took responsibility for anything she did in the marriage.
I did do and say horrible, regrettable things throughout my relationship. I behaved in horrible, almost unrecognizable to myself ways. I have so much regret. I freely and openly and voluntarily talked about what I did. I talked about the horrible language. I talked about being pushed to the extent where I didn't even know the difference between, right and wrong. I will always continue to feel like I was a part of this, like I was the other half of this relationship, because I was. And it was ugly and could be very beautiful. It was very, very toxic. We were awful to each other. I made a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes. But I've always told the truth.
Oh, for God's sakes. I mean, like, we're so close to some personal growth. I mean, she got to the point of, yeah, maybe I did something wrong, I don't know. But still can't.
I was
Shut up.
awful in every way.
I couldn't tell the difference between right and wrong. I did horrible things. I was toxic. But I always told the truth. It was like, in this very interview 2 minutes ago, lady, I've just listened to you lie to my face. I mean, it is unbelievable
But the
how
fact-
little personal growth there is.
The fact that she came out afterwards and said, yeah, but I still love him. It's like, yeah, you're a liar. You're an abuser. That's what you are. We know you're the one who's abusing him.
It was toxic but beautiful.
And
it's like,
he's the one who's trying to
for
get
the
away
abuser.
from it. Clearly. Yeah, exactly.
But like, the victim would never say, oh, it was toxic but beautiful. I loved being beat.
yeah,
It's just
no.
not a thing.
No, don't believe you.
Ridiculously transparent there. But there you have it. There's her trying to defend her own reputation after all that. And I thought it was fun to go through, if nothing else, and see that, well, there was a minuscule amount of personal growth, which is that maybe Amber Heard did something wrong, according to Amber Heard, after being found guilty of libel.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can become a member and find all of our premium content on lotuseaters.com, including the latest Epochs number 57 on Mark Antony, done by Bo and Carl. And if you would like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Getter at lotuseaters_com. Thank you and goodbye.